The band might be done. Not in the distant future, not as a theoretical threat. Right now, in Volume 7, Kessoku Band is fracturing in real time and nobody knows if it can be saved. Nijika and Kita are standing in the studio, voices raised, saying things they can't take back. Creative differences that used to be quirky personality clashes have become genuine conflict, the kind where silence afterward isn't comfortable, it's hostile. Bocchi's watching it happen, paralyzed, because this is her worst nightmare made real. She spent the entire series crawling out of crippling social anxiety to build connections with these people, and now those connections are snapping like overstressed guitar strings. The thing that breaks her isn't the argument itself. It's realizing she might not be able to fix this. That friendship and shared passion aren't always enough when ambition and creative vision pull in different directions. For the first time since the band formed, Bocchi's seriously considering going solo. Not because she wants to, because staying might mean watching the group she loves tear itself apart slowly, and leaving might be less painful than that slow death. The volume doesn't give easy answers. It doesn't reassure readers that everything will be fine. It sits in the discomfort of watching people who care about each other struggle with the reality that caring isn't always sufficient to overcome fundamental differences in what they want from music and life. Fans are dissecting every panel, taking sides, building theories about who's right, who'll leave first, whether reconciliation is even possible. But that's just the start. Here's how it all unravels. Bocchi the Rock has always walked the line between comedy and emotional depth. The series started as a story about Hitori Goto, nicknamed Bocchi, whose social anxiety was so severe that performing in front of people seemed impossible. Music was her escape, something she could do alone in her room without judgment. Joining Kessoku Band forced her into the exact situations she'd spent her life avoiding: collaboration, performance, vulnerability. Early volumes focused on her growth, slowly learning to trust others and finding that connection could be beautiful instead of terrifying. The band became her family, the first place she genuinely belonged. Volume 7 tests whether that belonging can survive conflict. Kessoku Band isn't struggling because members hate each other. They're struggling because they've grown in different directions. Nijika's vision for the band has always been about tight performance and crowd appeal. She wants success, recognition, proof that their effort matters. Kita's newer to the group but brings energy and ambition, pushing for opportunities that require stepping outside comfort zones. Bocchi's relationship with music is more personal. She plays because it's the only language where she can express what words can't. The idea of chasing fame or transforming music into product feels like betrayal of why she started. Those philosophical differences stayed manageable when the band was small, playing local gigs for friends. But opportunities are growing. Bigger venues, actual industry attention. Suddenly, the question isn't, should we play music together, but what kind of band are we and where is this going? That question fractures them, because there's no answer that satisfies everyone. Nijika wants to capitalize on momentum. Kita's excited by possibility. Bocchi's terrified that success means losing the intimacy that made music safe for her in the first place. The studio confrontation brings all of this to a head. It's not one big blow-up, it's accumulated tension finally boiling over. Nijika pushing for a performance opportunity that Bocchi isn't ready for. Kita siding with Nijika because she doesn't understand why Bocchi's hesitation feels like rejection to her. Bocchi unable to articulate that it's not about the gig, it's about feeling like the band she joined is becoming something unrecognizable. Words get harsh, intentions get misread. The silence after the argument is worse than the yelling because it's everyone realizing they might not be on the same page anymore. And getting back there might be impossible. Bocchi considering solo work is the emotional gut punch because it represents regression. The entire series has been about her learning to connect. Going solo means retreating into isolation, but isolation she understands. The band's conflict is forcing her to choose between growth that's painful and safety that's lonely. That's not a choice the series can make for her, and Volume 7 doesn't pretend otherwise. The creative differences conflict is the most realistic crisis the series could introduce. Bands break up over this constantly, not because of betrayal or dramatic external forces, but because people who make art together eventually discover they want different things from that art. Nijika isn't wrong for wanting success. Kita isn't wrong for seeking opportunities. Bocchi isn't wrong for prioritizing emotional safety. They're all valid positions that happen to be incompatible. And that's tragic in a way that's harder to resolve than if someone was clearly the villain. Volume 7 is asking whether compromise is possible or if some differences are irreconcilable, and the fact that it doesn't immediately answer shows maturity in the storytelling. Bocchi's paralysis during the confrontation reveals how much her growth is still fragile. She's come far from the girl who couldn't make eye contact, but conflict triggers that old anxiety in full force. Her instinct is still to freeze, to avoid, to hope the problem resolves without her input. That's realistic trauma response. You don't overcome anxiety permanently, you just get better at managing it. And high-stress situations can still knock you back to old patterns. The fact that her first thought is solo work rather than fighting for the band shows she's still defaulting to isolation when connection gets painful. That's heartbreaking because readers have watched her build these relationships, and seeing her ready to abandon them at the first major obstacle feels like watching someone give up on themselves. The standoff between Nijika and Kita specifically is important, because it splits the band across fault lines that aren't about seniority or skill. Nijika's the founder, the one who built Kessoku Band from nothing. Kita's the newcomer, who brought fresh energy and helped them reach new audiences. Both have legitimate claim to shaping the band's direction, and both feel like the other is undermining what makes the group special. That conflict isn't solvable through compromise, because they're arguing about identity. What is Kessoku Band fundamentally, and who gets to decide? If Nijika concedes, she loses her vision for the project she started. If Kita backs down, she's relegated to follower status, and her contributions get diminished. Bocchi's caught between them, unable to advocate for her own position because articulating needs has always been her weakness. The fan response splitting into camps mirrors the characters' conflict and shows how well the volume captured real creative tension. Some fans side with Nijika, arguing that staying small and safe means stagnation and eventual irrelevance. Others side with Bocchi's perspective, pointing out that chasing success often kills what made a project meaningful in the first place. That debate happening in fan spaces means Volume 7 touched something genuine. It's not presenting a clear answer because there isn't one. Different people navigate creative collaboration differently, and the series is respecting that complexity rather than forcing resolution. The theory that someone might actually leave the band isn't wild speculation, it's grounded in the volume's tone. Earlier conflicts got resolved through heartfelt conversations and renewed commitment. Volume 7 doesn't give that comfort. The emotional beats suggest this rift might be too deep for a simple "we talked it out and everything's fine" resolution. If someone does leave, it would represent the series acknowledging that sometimes growth means paths diverging, that people can love each other and still not be able to work together, that endings aren't always failures even when they hurt. The connection to earlier arcs about Bocchi's anxiety makes this crisis hit harder. Her journey has been about learning that connection is worth the risk. If the band breaks up, does that validate her original fears? That opening up just leads to pain? Or does it prove that even relationships that end were valuable for what they taught you while they lasted? Volume 7 is setting up that philosophical question without rushing to answer it, trusting readers to sit in the discomfort alongside the characters. If this really is the series' biggest crisis, if the band genuinely might not survive intact, then what comes next isn't about whether they reconcile, but about what reconciliation even means. Whether it's everyone compromising until nobody's happy, or whether it's accepting that some creative partnerships have natural endpoints and that's okay. And whether Bocchi can internalize that relationships ending doesn't mean she failed at connection, just that she chose something beautiful and temporary over safety and nothing.